give the word to the first panelist, which is who is Corey Gregg.
Thank you. Are you guys excited to hear some new information from me? Yeah? Well, too bad, because a lot of it's going to be repeated information. So yeah, as Dimi said, I'm an intern. I'm from the US, and I'm an intern at the Capacity Building Marketplace, which you guys have heard a couple times. And I'm going to be speaking about agriculture and achieving the SDGs. Now, in order for agriculture to achieve anything, food security and production will have to be addressed. One of the reasons is because the undernourishment population in the world is 1 in 9. It's about 11%. And some of the key areas in the world that deal with this the most are Southern Asia, at about 15% of their entire population. To put that in perspective, that's about the entire population of the United States. So imagine everyone from the United States is undernourished. That includes me also. And then the second region that deals with it the most is Sub-Saharan Africa, with almost 23% of their population being undernourished. So currently, the amount of food that's produced globally isn't as much of an issue now, but going forward it will be. It's because the land lost in the last 40 years, the arable land to pollution or erosion is about 33%. So we've lost about a third of our land. However, going forward, the arable land that's lost might not be as big of an issue because a bigger issue might be actual water access. Crops and livestock account for about 70% of all water withdrawals in the world, and then in some developing countries, it's about 95%. And the reason that some of these problems need to be addressed going forward is due to the rising global population. As you can see here with this chart, the current population is around 7.6 billion, and it's expected to go up to close to 10 and then 11. So if we're not able to give access to food and water to the people that are living today, how are we going to do that in 30 and 70 years when the population is a lot higher? And these issues will need to be addressed going forward due to our reliance on agricultural products. So for example, the amount of the human diet that's related to plants, as well as the number of rural citizens in developing countries that rely on plant-based products for basic healthcare, both of those are right around 80%. Another factor that's been mentioned is in regards to the agricultural industry going forward and achieving the SDGs will be about gender equality. So women, as you can see in this beautiful picture here, women make up half of the agricultural workforce. Yet they only make up about 10 to 20% of all landowners and landholders in the world. So that's something that will need to be addressed going forward. And overall, agriculture has the potential to achieve many of the Sustainable Development Goals by helping with social and environmental issues, but also economic issues, because the largest employer in the world is the agricultural and aquacultural industries. It provides livelihoods for about 40% of the world. So I will give just a very brief background on the Sustainable Development Goals because Pradeep gave you some information earlier. So first, we started with the Millennium Development Goals from 2000, 2015. That's these 8 here. These were very economic and socially conscious, and they had a goal 7 dealt with the environment, but they didn't deal with environmental degradation at all, which is what the UN CCD specifically deals with, the UN environment and stuff. So this led to then the Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of them, 169 different targets. You guys can look them up if you're interested. And basically all the SDGs somehow relate to agriculture, and agriculture relates to them in some form, but we don't have time to go into detail on all of them, so I pick out some of the more interesting ones. Specifically, number 2 is probably the most related to agriculture, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, as well as decent work and economic growth, consumption, and then the one that the UNCCD is most focused on, which is number 15, life on land. And then I will briefly discuss the potential for agriculture to help achieve the SDGs, as well as other SDGs to help influence the agricultural related SDGs, such as 2 and 15 that I just mentioned. So for example, a well-nourished child has a better opportunity for a better education. That specifically relates to number 4. The agriculture and aquaculture industries are the largest single employers in the world. So this offers potential for economic growth. And these are also the main sources of income and food for most of the world's poor. So that specifically relates to 1 in 8. As I mentioned, increased involvement of women in agriculture will help promote gender identity, or gender equality and equal economic opportunity, which is specifically number 5 and 8. Improving water security and sustainable water management that can help improve our water resources as well as protecting the aquatic resources. And then lastly, more sustainable agriculture, especially with the increase of technologies and markets, can help to combat the effects of climate change. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Corey, for this very nice and quick overview how the SDGs agriculture ties into several SDGs and how it can influence SDGs positively or negatively.